Hi, this is Lindsay Oden, Special Research Assistant at the Washington State Attorney General's Office, and this is your AGO Moment in History. In this series, our office will be releasing clips from our Oral History Project, an ongoing effort to collect and preserve the history of the Attorney General's Office as told by the people who have worked here over the years. In our first episodes, you heard from former Attorneys General Slade Gorton and Christine Gregoire. Now, we will turn our attention to another former Attorney General, Ken Eikenberry, in his interview with former Deputy AGs Jeff Goltz and Shirley Battan. Eikenberry served 3 terms as Washington State's Attorney General, from 1981 to 1993. General Eikenberry is a born and raised Washingtonian. He was born in Wenatchee in 1932, and he attended Wenatchee Valley College and Washington State University. He then served in the U.S. Army for 2 years. In 1959, he received his law degree from the University of Washington. He entered law enforcement, becoming a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In 1962, he then became a deputy prosecuting attorney in King County. In 1970, he was elected to the Washington House of Representatives, where he served 3 terms. In 1980, he was elected Washington State's 15th Attorney General. In this clip, General Eikenberry discusses his decision to run for AG and his campaigns for the office. Let's take a listen.
So, thank you for coming today. We're here because Attorney General Ferguson is putting together a project, historical project, that will compile the history of the Attorney General's office. And
I'm really glad to see that he's doing it. First of all, the office, from my experience, deserves that kind of respect. And it'll also help, I think, with the cohesion of lawyers within the office and everyone who works there.
Totally. So thanks very much for participating. Go ahead, Jeff.
So let's start with some basics. You served 3 terms as Attorney General. Is that correct?
Well, I served 3 terms. Actually, the 3 terms were preceded by a very short term to which I was appointed to office by Governor Dixie Lee Ray. It seems that Slade Gorton had to resign the position of Attorney General in order to be sworn in as a U.S. Senator, having been elected the previous year. And so rather than have the office sit vacant during that period of time, Governor Ray saw it fit to appoint me.
So the Democratic Governor Dixie Lee Ray appointed a Republican Attorney General.
Yes, and not only that, but I had been the Republican State Party chairman. And part of almost by job definition, part of the job is to make critical comments about the incumbent governor. Yeah. And Governor Ray had lent herself to this proposition that by making some what I'll call unwise appointments. Yeah. So now I'm sitting in front of her, thanking her for making such an astute appointment in my case.
So let's go back to 1980. You were running for Attorney General, and you who was your opponents in that campaign?
In 1980 was a real horse race for Attorney General. There were some 8 legitimate candidates in the field at one time. The first one, Gordon Walgren, then leader in the Senate, was removed by a federal government charge being made against him. And when it got down to, that still left a bunch of legitimate candidates, but when it got down to the general election, I was facing John Rossellini, who'd been pretty much eliminated from the contest by a series of newspaper articles about him having taken money from a trust fund. And John Miller, who had been a member of Congress and ran as an independent for Attorney General, and he did an excellent job of it.
What led you to run for Attorney General?
Well, the position of Attorney General, let's put it this way. When I interviewed Slade Gorton while he was Attorney General, and this was about 8 months in advance of the election, I asked him about the office, and his remark was that it's the best job that a lawyer can have if You want to keep your hand in on the practice of law, but also do some of the policy changes that you'd like to see happen in life. And those were both primary concerns of mine, and that's what caused me to run for AG.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the 1980 campaign. Tell us a little bit about the 1984 and the 1988 campaigns. How were those different?
Well, they were different in that they were much easier than the initial campaign had been, than the initial election, because in '84 I was running against, or was challenged by a very competent candidate, Phil Talmadge, who was a state senator and who had seen this coming and had been doing a few things as a state senator to set himself up for the challenge. But he was essentially dishorsed, if you will, by the fact that his campaign glommed onto an issue of whether or not I had been involved in a law to require that employers disclose to their employees the existence of certain chemicals in their workplace. And he said that I'd been involved in killing such a bill, such a law, but in fact, truth is, I hadn't heard of it being, or I hadn't been involved in it. And the newspaper picked up this issue, and when the other campaign had run an ad, they developed an ad, picked up the issue, and they went to the campaign manager, who gave one item as evidence that I had been involved. They went to the candidate, who gave a second piece of evidence, and they went to the producer of the film, I think it was, who gave a third piece of evidence, and none of it checked out. Well, of course, that pretty much violated the rule, one basic rule of campaigning. And the third campaign in 1988 was a matter of Bill Erxleben having deciding to use, in my issue, in my view, a mistaken view that X in his name reflected excellence. And I won that campaign by 62%.
Was running for Attorney General different than running for state representative?
Yes, very much so, because as a state representative, you had the hope of meeting at least half of the voters in your district, and by door knocking and shaking hands and that sort of thing. And but as Attorney General, of course, he relied much more on television and on media means of distributing your message.
Thanks for listening to this AGO moment in history. Be sure to like and subscribe to receive updates when we upload a new episode. On our next episode, General Eikenberry discusses his work before he came to the AGO, including his time with the FBI, as a prosecutor, and in the Washington legislature. Thanks, and talk to you again soon.